Hey everybody, it's Olive here to do my May wrap-up and June TBR. I'm going to jump right in. I didn't have a fantastic reading month in May, and some of the books I did read in May I covered in my April wrap-up May TBR since I read them so early in the month. So I don't have a ton to talk about, but let's talk a little bit about what I read in May. And then I have a very ambitious TBR for June, so I'm looking forward to telling you what I'm planning on reading. The first book that I listened to on audiobook that I also have a hard copy of is The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. I hated this. I was really intrigued by the concept. It's about a girl who graduates from Brown pretty early on in the novel, and she's kind of in love with this guy who has some mental problems going on. Then there's also this friend of hers that is totally infatuated with her and has this determination to marry her. And in theory, that sounds really good. I was kind of interested in it since I'm only a few years out of college, but I just found it dull. The writing is really pretentious. I have heard good things about Jeffrey Eugenides, and I'm still interested in some of his other work, but I just really couldn't get into this. I hated all the characters, and I have found through reading that a lot of people found the main character, Madeline, really unlikable. When he was asked if he thought she was unlikable, or if he intended to make her unlikable when he wrote this, he said that he liked her just fine, which raises some questions for me. I then proceeded to look at his Wikipedia page, the source of all knowledge. I found out from looking at his Wikipedia page that Jeffrey Eugenides has had a very similar life progression to Mitchell Grammaticus, who is the close friend who is determined to marry Madeline, the main character. Even his name, Mitchell Grammaticus, has the same flow, same amount of syllables as Jeffrey Eugenides. Not very well disguised, Jeffrey Eugenides. I found it really boring, especially listening to it on audiobook. There's a lot of lofty academic stuff, specifically relating to religious studies, which is not my forte. I would not recommend this. I'm still interested in reading Middlesex, but I just was really unimpressed by this. I gave it 1 star. I then listened to another audiobook, but this was a book on CD that I took with me on a road trip that my husband and I took. This was When You Are Engulfed in Flames by David Sedaris. I really like David Sedaris. I find his collections to be really hit or miss. Either I really love an essay or it's just really not my thing. I really enjoyed listening to it on audiobook. It was really entertaining hearing David Sedaris recount these experiences that he's had. I particularly like the live ones because he does such a great job in front of an audience. The next book I read was Birds of a Feather by Jacqueline Winspear. And this is the second book in a series she has that's, I guess, just called the Maisie Dobbs series. The main character is Maisie Dobbs, and she is a private investigator. I have not read the first one, which I believe is just called Maisie Dobbs. But this is the kind of series where I think you can read them out of order, kind of like Tana French's Dublin Murder Squad series. Because each book follows a different case, you kind of don't need to know what has happened in the previous book. It helps, but it's not completely necessary. In this book, Maisie Dobbs is hired by a very wealthy and prominent businessman whose daughter has gone missing, and there is a kind of fractured relationship between this young heiress and her father. And you're kind of trying to figure out the whole time why she fled, and then you find out very early on that several of her friends have been murdered. So you don't know if she runs away because of her relationship with her father, if it has something to do with these friends being murdered, if she's afraid, if she's angry. The story slowly begins to unravel and things reveal themselves, as they often do in these kind of books, and it was a pretty good time. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing. I thought it was overly simplistic. The dialogue was really good, and the characterization through the dialogue was very impressive. But the storytelling, I could take or leave. I'm not going to continue with this series, but I'm not sorry I read it. I also read 2 graphic novels in the month of May. The first one is Bee and Puppycat. This is a cartoon series created by Natasha Allegri, but this collection has multiple different interpretations by different artists within the Bee and Puppycat universe. I'm a big fan of the cartoon. I think it's adorable, and there is also really great artwork, as well as paper dolls. I got this from the library, so I can't really utilize the paper dolls, but I thought they were so great. And there's just beautiful art at the back, and it was adorable. It's a lot of fun to read. I would highly recommend it. I had also been hearing a lot about this next one all over BookTube, so I really wanted to get my hands on it, and that's Alex and Ada. This is a lot like the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, if you've seen that. It's about a lonely young guy who receives this cyborg companion, I guess you would call her a girlfriend. He's not quite sure what to do with her, but he really likes her. And so that kind of starts a journey for him. I won't say any more. There are 2 books that I'm reading that kind of carried over from last month that I'm working on finishing. First one of those is Egg and Spoon by Gregory Maguire. This is a YA book, though I would argue it's kind of more aimed toward adults, specifically in all the pop culture references. But it's set in Tsarist Russia and is heavily influenced by Russian folklore. And it does a really good job. I'm looking forward to finishing this up. I'm over halfway through it. It's quite a chunker. I'm really excited to see how everything resolves. The next one that I'm going to work on finishing is the Bellwether Revivals by Benjamin Wood. I'm not too far into this one, so I can't really say how it's going, but I'm looking forward to reading it. There are a couple more group buddy reads things going on this month that I'm really excited to participate in. I don't normally do that. The first one I'm reading is The Buried Pyramid by Jane Linskold. Katie from Effusions of Wit is hosting a read-along for this one. It's kind of like a historical fiction meets fantasy, and I think there are some nautical adventures in there as well, I think. And that is totally up my alley if that's true. So I am excited. The next one I'm reading for a local book club. I'd been meaning to read this over the last couple of months, then I found out that a local book club was going to be reading it, so I thought that would provide really great motivation. The book that they're reading is The Golem and the Jinni by Helene Wecker. I've already started, and it's already caught my attention in the first 30 pages, which does not happen often with me. It normally takes me a little while to get into a book. But this is so good so far. I've already finished one audiobook for this month, but I'm gonna wait to talk about it until my June wrap up, since I did officially finish it in June. That was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. My audiobook pick for this month will be The Diary of Anne Frank. I don't remember if I read this as a kid. I'm sure I did at some point, or at least read some excerpts, but I'm really embarrassed that I have not read this yet. It's kind of one of those books where I feel like it's really important to have read it in order to be an informed citizen of the world. So this is something I've been really looking forward to getting to. It's read by Selma Blair, so I think that should be a really interesting listen. Then there are 3 more books that I'm hoping to get to if I have the time. The first one of those is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. Starlight Symphonies of Oak and Glass by Alexandria Nolan. This is a story of nautical magic and mystery that takes place on Lake Michigan, and I think it's going to be a good time. It's also self-published, which is really cool. I really like reading books about boats and pirates during the summertime, so this is perfect. Again, I'm being very ambitious, so I'm also hoping to get to The Land of the Firebird by Suzanne Massey. This one talks a lot about the art, architecture, culture of Russia, specifically old Russia. The Firebird is a really important folk tale myth in Russia. I think this would be a really great follow-up to Egg and Spoon, since that focuses so much on Russian folklore. I really want to learn more about Russian folklore and myths. I don't know a whole lot. I know just the bare minimum. So I think this will be a really good opportunity for me to delve into that subject matter more. And lastly, I have the next 3 volumes of Chew. I'm hoping to read those this month, in addition to the 2nd volume of Alex and Ada that I have on hold for my library. So as you can see, I'm planning on jumping right into my reading month. Some of these books just need to be finished up. They're kind of runovers from last month. I definitely have more time to read now. I'm definitely more motivated to read, so here's to a great reading month. Please leave a comment if any of these books sound interesting to you, if you've read them, if you plan to read them. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. You can also find me on both Twitter and Instagram at @bookolive, and the link to my Goodreads is down below if you'd like to be friends. Have a great reading month. I'll see you very soon. Bye.